Some of the biggest names in racing inspected the facilities today, and everybody was impressed by the state-of-the-art project.
If I had the opportunity to train here, well, you'd be here with, as quick as a wink.
For a jockey, it's great because you've got great run-ins. From most barriers, you don't have to get crowded or no turns where you get cut off. You like a good straight, good camper on the track. It's got everything that a jockey would like to ride on.
The Scone Race Club raised $1 million to buy the 340 hectares. The state government provided more than $5 million for the track and facilities. It's believed to be the first track built from scratch in New South Wales this century, which will result in a facility custom built for modern racing. The 1900-metre course proper encloses 3 training tracks, grass, cinders and sand. Racegoer facilities will be built on this slab, with the betting ring, horse parade and social amenities all under the one roof. An equine research centre will also be established to take advantage of the town's breeding reputation, along with a TAFE centre to cater for 300 students.
It will be about a $25 million capital investment and around a $10 million annual income flow for the district.
The new track will be opened in November, replacing the 47-year-old track south of the town. But locals say none of the tradition will be lost. They say you can nearly hear the crash of hooves already. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
It's just another day at the stables for East Maitland trainer David Atkins, but last weekend could hardly be dismissed as easily. Single Seal, one of 8 horses he trains, came home a winner at 100 to 1. Involved in the industry for 14 years, David only linked up with the gelding 3 months ago when it returned from a 2-year break due to hoof problems.
He is a funny old horse, you've got to keep him happy. Bart Cummins once said a happy horse is a good horse. Well, that applies to him, If he's sour, he won't race well at all.
David certainly knew how to make the 8-year-old horse happy at Randwick last Saturday.
Probably 300 out. I thought he's just going to battle away. He might run a place, but in the last 200 he really got going and he won easy.
And if you think David's happy, the people who back Single Seal are ecstatic. In particular, one punter who picked the trifecta and for his efforts collected $278,694. So can we expect to see more things from Single Seal?
Oh, we'll just see what happens with him.
For those interested in following Single Seal's career, his next run is at Randwick on July 9th. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
A warning tonight to pregnant mothers. They shouldn't consume any alcohol while pregnant.
We don't know what the threshold is for the exertion of adverse effects, and because we don't know that, then it's probably wise not to drink any alcohol.
Alcohol affects the baby's growth and mental ability.
So a woman might end up with a small, slow child.
While the direct effects of alcohol on the fetus have been known for some time, Dr. Murdoch says the indirect effects have been underestimated. He says alcohol impairs the maternal system, which reduces the mother's ability to nourish the fetus. Drinking alcohol while breastfeeding is more controversial.
Because alcohol will go anywhere where water will go, it means that certainly alcohol will go into the breast milk.
While the data is not conclusive, Dr. Murdoch warns against it. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
They are the lowest of persons on this earth.
Noel Padelti's plight hit the newsstands and radio waves this morning. About 5 tonnes of cut, seasoned firewood stacked shoulder high in his backyard had been lifted on Saturday night. Noel says he cut the wood to keep his 90-year-old parents warm through the winter.
To think that anybody could be so low and despicable as to come and thieve from elderly pensioners their firewood.
The matter was reported to police and a few Good Samaritans have come forward during the day to donate firewood. But late this afternoon, NBN News was contacted by a man claiming to be Mr Padelti's son Russell. The caller insisted the wood was his and that he'd removed the load to sell it.
A financial planner by profession, Matthew Rodwell has been checking out some big figures coming out of the West.
Perth just came through with an opportunity that is too good to refuse.
Rodwell has been with the Knights for 5 seasons. His tough defence and elusive play putting him on line for rep duties. The league labelled Matthew as a face of the 90s, but a knee reconstruction has put him out of season 94. Season 95, and he'll be wearing the number 7 in Perth.
They originally chased Jason Taylor, but he went to Norths, so I was sort of their second pick. I suppose I could laugh at that now, but no, I'd be their number 1 halfback.
The 22-year-old signs a 3-year deal next week. He'll leave behind a good job, many great memories and some delicate planning with his Newcastle girlfriend.
Now it's happened, you know, we have to sit down and discuss things, but I think it's a rosy future for us.
Meanwhile, the Knights have announced their team to play Penrith at Panther Stadium on Sunday. Andrew Johns comes back from injury, Smith goes back to reserve grade, and the Chief will play just 3 days before the French Test. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
State Forests has announced a new project that will see a 400-hectare eucalypt plantation established on private land between Gosford and Kempsey. The joint effort will involve farmers providing suitable land, then sharing the proceeds when the trees planted by State Forest are harvested for timber 15 to 40 years on. The plantations offer farmers a viable alternative.
It's going to allow people to actually plan for the future. It's like a superannuation scheme. They're going to be able to plant down trees. It's going to be great. It's going to be managed by the Forestry Commission.
The Government Department is now looking for suitable land to plant the forests and requires cleared level holdings of 10 to 20 hectares.
It makes a lot more sense for us to go into joint ventures with landholders who have got suitable property, whereby they make their land available and we spend our money putting trees in the ground.
Amanda Bolger, NBN News.
Under the new Local Government Act, councils must charge ratepayers a specific waste management fee. The rate covers the cost of normal garbage collection and an optional recycling service. Council has endorsed a fee of $111.93, which includes a garbage collection charge of about $95 and a weekly curbside recycling fee just under $17. That's if Solo, a private recycling operation and the lowest tenderer, is given the job, a move not supported by all councillors.
The whole waste management industry is really in flux at the moment, and we really need the flexibility to respond to new developments. And at the moment, if we sign a 3-year contract, we're locked in for that period of time.
Council is expected to make its final decision at a special budget meeting next week. Meanwhile, Lord Mayor John McNaughton has backed down on moves to adopt first-class airfare travel for himself and business class for councillors. Following public outcry, the Lord Mayor says he'll now leave it up to ratepayers to decide.
The reason for that is that it's a monumental beat-up about what happens about air travel, and I decided that the best thing to do with this is take it out of the hype, get the public to tell us what they believe we should do, and then do it.
When Hunter Water began the experiment at its Branxton treatment plant, the aim was to discover how effectively human wastewater and sludge could be recycled. A plot was prepared. Now 5,000 various species of trees stand tall on 3 hectares of land.
It's been very successful. The trees have sort of essentially jumped out of the ground. They're around 10 metre height in just over 2 years.
60 million litres of secondary treated effluent have been used to water the trees. A quarter were also treated with slow-releasing sludge dug 80 centimetres underground, and they've flourished.
Well, the sludge is very high in organic matter and also has good value as a fertiliser, and particularly the nitrogen has helped the growth rate of the trees.
Wastewater from the treatment works is also being used by local recreation clubs and farmers for irrigation, with successful results. The experiment has enabled vital information to be gathered about the recycling of wastewater. But are we any closer to the day when treated human sludge can be used in our own backyards?
Yes, with the right controls and the right treatment, it certainly can be.
Melinda Smith, NBN News.
Alan Neighbour left Newcastle aboard his yacht Newcastle Australia a week ago. Since then it's been anything but plain sailing for the Novocastrian, striking strong westerly winds across the Tasman which shattered a boom on his boat. He's currently just north of New Zealand, heading for Opua in the Bay of Islands to replace the broken boom. How do you rate the trip so far?
It's been pretty lousy actually.
But he has nothing but praise for his yacht.
Yeah, very, very happy with the boat. It's a good boat. He's proven himself to be very strong and quick, so that's the main thing. And we just got let down a bit by the boom, but that's all right. We're better off fixing it here than halfway across the Pacific.
Despite the setbacks, Alan predicts he'll arrive at Charleston in South Carolina a couple of weeks before the race starts in September. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
It was a great day in the history of the Newcastle Breakers. At a crisis meeting, creditors owed more than $400,000 were told the club couldn't pay. They were asked to write off the debt. But one creditor, the Australian Soccer Federation, which is owed a sizable sum, said the club had to come up with the money or they'd be dumped from the National Soccer League.
Well, it's really up to the club, is that they wish to be in the league next year, and if they wish to be in the league, they've got to be financial.
Without the National League, the Breakers wouldn't exist, so the shock announcement from the Soccer Federation has left the cash-starved club floundering.
It's really put the lid on the coffin, so to speak. They just didn't nail it down. The outcome of today's meeting does really tip us over the edge, and I believe the club now must face up to the question whether or when we will close.
Long-time Breakers supporters are furious, believing they're being squeezed to sell off the ground, perhaps opening the door for another team to move in. In total, the Breakers are $2.5 million in the red. Final decision on the Breakers' future won't be known for 7 days. Over the week, the club will meet with the Australian Soccer Federation and other creditors for more talks to see if National League soccer lives or dies in Newcastle. Peter Ryan, NBN News. It's been nearly 2 weeks since the Knights' last run, struggling home against Easts. Paul Harrigan didn't play in that game, but he'll be on the paddock against Penrith just 3 days before the test against France. Coach David Waite says that doesn't mean he'll be taking it easy on the Chief.
No effect at all on the way I'm playing there. The ultimate goal on Sunday is to grab 2 points.
There is a question mark over Adam Muir after recent knee surgery.
Adam will have a run tonight, a light run tonight, another run tomorrow morning about 10:30, and we'll decide whether he comes down to Penrith then.
Waite is expecting a torrid game against Penrith. Alexander moves into 5'8", the Axe Gilmeister into front row. Both teams are desperate for a win.
It's a critical game for both sides, as are most at this stage of the year, but more so now that the cotton wool's off. I mean, the split rounds are over. There's 9 games running until September, and the sides that are going to make it need to stand up right now.
Right from the whistle, Western Australia displayed form belying their pre-game dubbing of underdogs. Dominating in the forwards, the Sandgropers opened the scoring in the 3rd minute with a penalty. Encounters between the two sides were tough and at times heated. A penalty to Newcastle made it 2-2. WA halfback Danny Mamo was the game's standout player, his efforts paying off in the 20th minute. Trailing 6-2, Newcastle's Brett Botham, Tony Price and Brian Quinton combined to make it 6 apiece. A muddy middle made things uncomfortable for some, but former Newcastle player James Goulding looked right at home. With Sean Devine's sin bin, Western Australia went to the break 12-6 ahead. Newcastle tied the scores early in the second, Brian Quinton over for his second try. But despite James Goulding's sin binning, the visitors ran in 2 more tries to Newcastle's 1, WA defeating the country champs 22-16.
I think the weather in Newcastle was pretty kind to us. With the pace they had in their back line, we looked for a bit of a wet track and we got it, and I think we shut them down fairly well.
In local league, West clashed with Maitland. The Rosellas scored 4 tries to 1 in the first half. One of their best saw Tony Price finish off some brilliant teamwork. With the score 12-6 to West, the Pumpkin Pickers looked dangerous, but Ashley Gordon's intercept changed that. Steve Story over for his 3rd try. The final score, West 34, Maitland 10. In the Curry-Waratah game, the Bulldogs 2 strong, winning 32-26.
About 140 Navy veterans of World War II took part in the Remembrance Service. They were accompanied by the Wingham Pipe and Drums Band. They marched from Taree RSL Club through the main street of town over to Fotheringham Park, where a ceremony was held at the Cenotaph.
It is a get-together of all various subsections throughout the state of New South Wales, just to remember our fallen comrades and to generally have a good time.
It was both a time to remember and a reunion for old friends.
It's a mad maze for a few minutes of mayhem. 18 boats took part in round 1 of the Winter Sun Series in the King of the Mountain at Round Mountain, just south of Coolangatta. Racing the clock, it's just 1 boat at a time around the windy track. The 500 horsepower boats can get from 0 to 100 kilometres per hour in just 3 seconds, and keeping within the 3 metre wide channels can be a big ask in itself. It's not without its risks. Mark Johnson and Tony Collihole on Hooters gave onlookers a scare when they tipped over at the finish line. It took a couple of precious seconds before everyone surfaced, rescuers quick to the scene. Round 2 of the series is on next weekend at Round Mountain. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Falcons coach Tom Wiseman could only watch with despair as McDaniel slammed the Devils into a 9-point lead after the first quarter. Rucker led the comeback. Jensen also chipped in. But Newcastle was still behind by 9 at half-time. McLean sank a hat-trick of 3-pointers to give the Falcons the lead. Going into the last quarter, Newcastle led by 10. Rucker sank 21 points in all, along with 16 assists and 9 rebounds to give the Falcons a 17-point win. Michael Johnson's 26 points also crucial in helping the Falcons to win 5 out of its last 6 and a share of the top 8. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Jason Martin did it with Norths. Now a few of the Knights have recorded what could be the start of a new career. It all came together a couple of seasons ago when the Knights cracked the semi-finals. A few celebratory bars of Auld Lang Syne later and a new team anthem was born.
And, we used to sing it over a few drinks in the early days with the Knights, and after a few wins, and then we decided that it might be a good idea to record it because it's so easy to sing, and maybe possibly one day the crowd may join in.
Matthew Johns was in fine voice today after another man-of-the-match performance against Penrith. He was in everything, starting moves, and then with some brotherly help, he finished them off. Penrith coach Phil Gould said after the game that Johns was always creating something. Matthew was pleased to be getting the raps.
I almost feel pretty good, but hopefully they'll feel the same way next week at the Broncos.
Knights officials are hoping for a record home crowd against the Broncos. On the new song, Butts, Sarge and Matty have been supported by a Welsh choir. It should sound even more impressive with 30,000 fans backing them up.
About 60,000 shoppers flocked to the Crazy Day sales, the event officially launching Inner City Sunday trading.
It just shows the pulling power of the CBD and it puts the light of all of those people, or some of those people, who say that the city is dead. It's anything but dead.
In the past, only a handful of shop owners have offered 7 days a week trading. It's hoped most of the 600 stores will gradually follow the lead set by major retailers, including David Jones. But according to the city centre's marketing chief, business won't boom overnight.
Unfortunately, we had the opportunity to be first with Sunday trading. We didn't take it, and now that we have decided to do it, we have to suffer a little bit of pain to come out the other end, hopefully in about 6 months, very profitable.
Following its success in removing parking meters, the city centre now has another target.
Hopefully, on Sundays, we're hoping to have the parking stations totally free all day. We'd like to make Newcastle, in terms of parking and accessibility, the most attractive CBD in the whole of Australia. Here's hoping.
A can of food may not seem much, but combined with donations from hundreds of shoppers, it can help provide a week's worth of groceries for needy families.
We rely on these sort of things to help us exist during this month, and there'll be people who will receive assistance through this that would just not be able to get it.
Also donated today, a cheque for $1,850 from Market Town shopping centre retailers to help the Salvo's welfare program.
What we'd like to do is suggest that there are other shopping centres that may be able to be in a similar position to us and contribute in a similar way.
The food, which will be distributed to families throughout Newcastle, is timely. Demand for assistance has increased by a third compared with last year.
We're being told the recession is over. Our Red Shield appeal is struggling a bit this year. People feel they haven't got to give to the same extent because the recession is over, but that's not true as far as welfare is concerned.
This is just like any other motor car which runs on petrol. However, for the next year, it'll be part of a trial to see if it can run on petrol, a fuel that is a blend of petrol and alcohol.
And that's an 8% blend of alcohol with petrol.
The study is being conducted by the Environment Protection Authority at Gosford, Port Macquarie and Newcastle. The first stage is to see what the petrol does to the car.
It's basically to determine whether there are any effects on drivability of the vehicle, fuel consumption.
It's hoped the new fuel will have benefits for the environment, as pollution from vehicles is one of the main forms of pollution in metropolitan areas.
There will be benefits in terms of air emissions.
The results of this trial will be known by this time next year.